Hello, everyone. I am your host, Kevin Williams, your Kevinly father. We are waiting for Biden to address the situation in Afghanistan, which seems to be getting worse. But we are extremely filtered, watching what we watch here in the United States of what's going on 7,000, 8,000 miles around the planet. All we do is we're spoon-fed whatever information can get out of Afghanistan, and then we make our conclusions based on that. One way or another, it's horrific over there. People are trying to get to the airport in Kabul, and they are unable to. Some are able to get through. However, there have been no flights out of the airport for 8 hours or more. Now they're saying that they can resume those flights. Apparently, there's a backlog in Qatar. Again, these are all informations. It's all information coming in as it comes in, and nothing is confirmed. And so we just have to trust what they tell us, or better yet, we don't trust what they tell us. Jennifer, I have not been monetized. The question Jennifer is putting into the chat room is, have you been monetized on YouTube? I was demonetized in February. I covered the Drivel War, the assault on the Capitol on 1/6. I did 16 hours straight of coverage. YouTube took that down. I in no way endorsed the violence. I am, as Newsmax has called me, a devious liberal. I'll cop to being a liberal. I try and present both sides. I will say things like, yes, the rate of vaccination among African Americans has to increase. Yes, the rate of vaccinations amongst white evangelicals must increase. Both are not where they should be. I don't pick sides. You just look at the facts and you report the facts. So YouTube decided to demonetize me back in February. Thank you very much, Jennifer, for asking that question. I am still demonetized. It has been reviewed, and I've been told that I don't provide enough new content or something. So we'll take a look at that at some point. But right now, it's more important that we wait for Biden to do his thing. We might watch something in the meantime. This was due to start at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. It is now 1:20. That's modus operandi at the White House. Often these things are delayed, especially as things are happening on the ground. We do need Rambo. What we need is some of the other countries apparently are sending people out, embassy staff, etc., sending people out from the airport to collect their people and bring them back. Who do we complain to at YouTube about my demonetization? Nobody. There's no one to complain to. So right now I am not a YouTube partner. I have been a YouTube partner in the past. This year, you guys have watched 44,000 hours of me talking. But for some reason, YouTube says that's not new material. This, me talking here, this is all someone else's thoughts, apparently. So yeah, if you see an advertisement, typically what happens if you're a YouTube partner, when there's an ad before a broadcast or it's interrupted by ads, those ads that go to 50% of the revenue goes towards the live streamer and 50% go towards YouTube. Right now, all of those funds are going to YouTube. I am creating content. Chris Wilson, it feels like 100,000 hours. Judges agree with that. It feels like a lot more. Now, in order to qualify for monetization on YouTube, in order to be a partner, there's a number of different things. You have to have 1,000 subscribers. I have close to 10,000. You have to broadcast and have watched 4,000 hours. Okay, 4,000 hours. That's a lot of time. I have had watched so far, just this year, 44,000 hours. That's 11 times what the requirement is. 44,000 hours have been watched. And the way I do it is I just drone on and I say the same thing over and over again. 44,000 hours. And people just watch hoping that I say something else. That's 44,000 hours of that happening. 44,000 hours. To put that into perspective, that's 5 years. People have watched 5 years of my babbling so far on the YouTube, but again, not content of any value. I don't know. What they have said is that I use a lot of content from other people. Yes! because I'm a contenter. By the way, if you want to do a react video where you take someone's song and you listen to it and you go, oh, I love this part. Oh, this is great. What? Here comes the drop. If you do that, if you do what's called a react video on YouTube, totally okay. Go ahead and get your partnership on. Enjoy that. But me? I don't know. I don't know if... see, these are all speculation. This is all speculation. I don't know. Maybe somebody was watching and I did a critique of what was happening to my account. That being said, it's important to note that I am, as they've called me on Newsmax, a devious liberal. There is no conspiracy against the right wing. YouTube and the other media are not... In fact, I want to be part of that court case. The one that was filed in Florida by Trump, even though it has to be filed in San Francisco in arbitration. But anyway, I would love to be part of that court case and show some of the stuff that I have done, obviously with a liberal bent, and I've been demonetized. I haven't been deplatformed. I am 2 copyright strikes again, and I'm being bitten by mosquitoes, and I don't know why. There's no... I'm inside right now. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 new mosquito bites. James, Donald's not going to run in 2024, so... But enjoy. I'm doing a react video right now. Everything I do is react videos. Well, that's not true. I do fact checks, and I do some other stuff, too. I do some music. That music is fine. That's a parody, and that's okay. That part can be monetized, but because it's part of the channel as a whole, it can't be monetized. And I think that when I got on their radar, I don't think it's fleas. Oh, God. No, not bed bugs. No, this is all within the last, like, half an hour. It's not hives. It's mosquito bites, because I know, because they started on the ankles. I went outside, and here in the Pasadena area, we have mosquitoes. They're actually called ankle biters. And they go for your ankles. Someone said you got to watch out for the ankle biters. And I'm like, yeah, it's kind of funny that that's the local nomenclature for these mosquitoes, that they get you at the ankles. Ha, 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 ha. No, these are specific mosquitoes called ankle biters. Shall we look that up? Is this, I'll react to the mosquitoes. I hate them. Ankle biter mosquitoes. Here we go. Here they are. These are the little critters, and they're small too. Okay, look at the size of this guy. Right here. Look how tiny these things are. Look at just a little. That I don't even think that's a thumbnail. I think so. They're like smaller than. And I cannot go outside, and they love me. I have friends. Okay, I know people who will be hanging out in the same general area as me, not hanging out with me, but they're there and I'm there, and they don't get bothered. But whatever it is about me, they just love me. James, nice to see you. Have a good day. Okay, so James is leaving. But once we started talking about mosquitoes, I get that. I would bug out too. Get it? But wait. There's also, when you Google ankle biters, there's also pictures of a lot of little dogs that bite your ankles. But anyway, but at random is a mosquito magnet. Someone once told me, and it was a book, I think, when I was a kid, that blue eyes, mosquitoes like people with blue eyes. And the reason is we're just this shy of hemophilia. And the blood in our veins, you can see the blue veins more easily, and mosquitoes can see blue, and so they're attracted to blue. Which, of course, what do we wear when we're outside? Blue jeans. Dumb. Let's see if there's any truth to that. Now that we're getting into the thing, let's take up the Google. Are mosquitoes attracted to blue light? Let's just go to blue. Here we go. Are mosquitoes attracted to color? Okay, so this is from Terminix. So they know their stuff. I agree. Okay. Mosquito bites can be itchy and bothersome. Mosquito bites can be itchy and bothersome. Thanks for starting off the article with that. Otherwise, I'd be like, what is the deal with mosquitoes? Why do people hate mosquitoes? Yeah, actually, I love garlic pills in general. Because then you burp and then you're like, garlic. Other factors, breath. Okay, here we go. According to researchers at the Caltech, California Institute of Technology, that's just right over here, so these people would know. Mosquitoes can see their host from about 16 to 32 feet away. Mosquitoes actually have two types of eyes. Mosquitoes wear glasses? We are monitoring the situation, by the way. As soon as President Biden starts speaking, we'll jump in on that. I've also got C-SPAN on another monitor here. Let me turn off the volume there so I can keep it live. Welcome to Mosquito Talk with your host, Kevin Lee Father. Let me pull up C-SPAN. I'm going to silence it here. So that's a former deputy U.S. ambassador to Afghanistan during the Obama administration talking about what to do with Afghanistan. And that's all we need to hear about that. Let's go back to the mosquitoes. No, I don't want a free email newsletter. According to researchers at Caltech, mosquitoes can see their host from 16 to 32 feet away. Mosquitoes have two types of eyes. Two compound eyes on the side of their heads and photosensitive eyes called ocelli on top of their heads. The large compound eyes are covered in individual lenses, blah, 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 detect motion, allowing the insect to see in multiple directions. The ocelli help the insect detect changes in light. By the way, I read some other article at some point that if mosquitoes had an IQ, in other words, the intelligent quotient that you need in order to survive as a species, it would be somewhere just above 200. They are smarter knowing how to do what they're supposed to do than any human. Case in point, how many humans are like, what? A vaccine that's going to save my life? Fuck no! Get the hell away from me! Mosquitoes also have antennae and maxillary pulp on their heads. I had some of that for dinner last night. These features help them pick up scents. These sensitive insects can detect the smell of a host from over 150 feet away. Here are some factors. Breath. Mosquitoes use those pulps to detect carbon dioxide. Okay, so the same as fleas. Fleas are fascinating because fleas can survive forever just hibernating. They don't really even exist. And then once they smell the eggs, once the eggs detect carbon dioxide, they hatch. So a flea can be in a vacant house on a possum, lay some eggs, and until a cat, dog, human occupies the house, nothing happens. They're just dormant. They know when to hatch based on the carbon dioxide. How? There's no brain function. By the way, the gardeners are here, so if you guys can hear that, oh well. Okay, so sweat. Mosquitoes can also detect several compounds in human sweats, including lactic acid. Oh, it's because I'm lactating all the time. There's a school near here, and I'll see the kids, and I'm like, oh my God, kids playing. And then I start lactating, which is why usually I'll wear pasties. Sometimes you guys will catch me just with the pasties on. Being outside in the heat of summer increases your body temperature and results in the production of sweat. Mosquitoes' bites will frequently be clustered around feet, ankles, wrists, and hands, which are areas that are exposed to the elements and are more likely to collect moisture. Do these look moist to you? These ankles? I like that my legs have extreme contrast. See the white against the green screen? It's just cut, right? My hair has difficulty. You can see a little green around my fingers, but my legs, which never see the light of day, look at that. From now on, I'm just going to green screen just my legs. What the hell is going on with this press conference, people? It's now half an hour late. Again, that's par for the course. Blood type. Strange as it may sound, researchers in Japan have found that individuals with type O blood may be more likely to be bitten by mosquitoes than those with type A blood. At random, what type of blood do you have? And if they prick you, do you not bleed? It's because I'm lactose intolerant. I don't know that I'm lactose intolerant. My body doesn't like milk or ice cream. So nothing in there about color. All right. I was told people with blue eyes. Okay, so at random is O positive, and that's apparently, according to Japanese researchers, the more likely. Now, my A positive Deidre, do you get bitten a bunch? Of course, it's all perspective. Of course, you're going to feel like, I got to get this mosquito off the screen. Hold on. Ah, there's more mosquitoes. That did not work. Hold on. Pancakes. There we go. Much, much better. Okay, Stephanie says, my sister and I are both A positive, and they attacked her like no get out and leave me alone. Yeah, so I don't know that there's any rhyme or reason. I'm a very attractive person to mosquitoes and to nobody else. I don't know that the garlic makes any difference. Hold on, let's find out. Does garlic repel okay, so this is being asked a lot. Garlic is toxic when mosquitoes ingest it, scientists say, but there's scant proof that eating it yourself and spraying it around your yard repels mosquitoes. Okay, so we don't really know, but basically no, it doesn't. I do use picoridin. That is the newer version. It's better than DEET, apparently, for the environment. DEET is the insecticide that's in a lot of like Deep Woods Off and stuff like that. It's very effective against mosquitoes. Could be very harmful in other ways. I'm holding my hand like this because I'm sort of rubbing my elbow, which is multiple bites on it. Look at all these freckles. I'm almost ginger. There's a bite right there. You guys probably can't see it. Do people get freaked out by mosquito bites? No, it's brand new. It's not even, you can see a little bit red right there, but it's not really raised. What? What's wrong with the dirty fingernails? How did I get dirt on them? I don't do anything. How on earth? I apologize for that. I'm filthy. Absolutely filthy in so many ways. Come on, White House. Where are these remarks? Let's get going with this. Let's go down memory lane a little bit. Let's take a look at things Trump has said over time, just randomly. I'm scrolling way back in time here. Let's see. This is 2 minutes and 19 seconds. So let's see what this was. So this is back when we had 64,000 deaths. Let's take a look at what he says about this. Something, and the title of this is Ventilators, Whistleblowers, Governors Can't Tell Him How Much They Appreciate. Okay. Okay, so somebody got some ventilators, but two friends of Trump brought the 1,000 ventilators. Okay, he never did. This is probably Cuomo. It is Cuomo. Oh, no volume on him? Hold on. What's going on with that? You guys should be able to hear him. Sorry about that, guys. Hold on. Let me see what's coming through here. Oh, I'm so sorry, guys. How do I... Maybe I can... Advanced audio properties. Desktop audio... How do I even... It's maybe because I've got these headphones on. It makes no sense. What if I do that? Let's try it again. Sorry, guys. Nope, didn't fix it. Okay, let's go old school here. Putting on the big headphones. I was so happy. So happy. Oh, let's try this. Let's see. What if I do this and... Okay, no, that doesn't work either. You guys can't hear that. Let me know if suddenly you guys heard that. Let's go to... I'm glad this actually happened before Biden gets speaking, so we can sort this out. Let's go to second audio. That's the big headphones. Let me turn these off.
Two very good friends of mine brought him those brought him those
Brought him those whistleblowers. Ventilators. Brought him ventilators, not whistleblowers.
Ventilators, right? Two very good friends of mine. They brought them. If you'd like their name, I'll give you their name.
Go ahead. Never did. Again, never did.
Should states and
No, but
cities
the governor did.
Why didn't reporters immediately come back at him? It was so, apart from maybe Jonathan Swan occasionally, there were and of course the one with the hair, whose name eludes me, the Caitlin Collins. And there were several that did, but in this situation, I know you've got a line of questions. I don't know who's talking right now.
Didn't mention that. It came through.
What are their names? I'll give you their names if you go ahead. What are their names? Okay, like call him out on stuff on the spot. Well, I don't want to give you their, but you just said you're going to give us their names. And I wish the press had gotten together and say, what are the names? You just said you were going to give us the names. Okay, and then the press get up and walk out. Can you imagine?
The Chinese, the country of China. But they were given by two friends of mine. But he didn't tell you that. Now, the governor also, you'll see when you read the letter, the governor also asked for 40,000. 40,000. He wanted 40,000 ventilators. Now, the governor, as you know, had a chance to get 16,000 a few years ago. He decided not to get that. The state of New York has asked for help. I've given him 4 hospitals, 4 medical centers. Then I gave him an additional hospital.
Same thing.
Then I gave him military people.
No additional hospital.
To operate the hospital. They were not supposed to be COVID hospitals. The ship is not. Interesting thing happened with the ship.
They were supposed to be COVID hospitals, but you can't just transfer patients. The patients have to say, yeah, I would like to go get treatment on a ship instead of here at the hospital.
People aren't in accidents because there's nobody driving. There's nobody taking motorcycle rides down the West Side Highway at 100 miles an hour. People are away. So people aren't
people are not away. They're home.
Being injured. Now they're asking whether or not we could open up the ship for COVID. We have given the governor of New York more than anybody has ever been given in a long time. I'll just say, I was going to say in history, but in a long time. And I think he's happy. But I think that, because I watched what he said today, and it was fine. I wouldn't say gracious. It wasn't gracious. It was okay. I must tell you, Gavin Newsom has been gracious.
And Gavin Newsom gets stuff.
Los Angeles, California, the job we've done, and all of California.
Why does that matter if they're gracious or not gracious?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But I think when we've given as much as we've
then why are we talking about it? If it doesn't matter.
Given to New York, somebody.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys could hear the reporter said, why does it matter if they're gracious?
I'll tell you who's been very nice.
This is back when there were 64,000 deaths. There's no date on this, unfortunately. I might be able to, I can get you an approximate date. Let's find out. This would have been April 4th. No. Yeah, it might have been April 4th of last year, thereabouts.
Has been very nice. He understands what we've given him. We brought him some more ventilators, too, yesterday. But nobody has been given like New York.
By the way, remember later on when the vaccines came about, he threatened to keep the vaccine from New York because Governor Cuomo said negative things about him forcing the vaccine. So he did threaten the people of New York with no vaccine.
And I know he appreciates it. He just can't quite get the words out, but that's okay.
So when he says,
he just can't. Cuomo not being able to say something. He did, in his defense, Cuomo had quite a hard time saying the words, I resign.
He says that he needs 40,000.
Please, go ahead.
Okay, so that's just a flashback into what we had to deal with as a country. We are in so much better shape than that. Let's flash back even farther here. Let's see. Let's go back to the 27th. No, let's go back even farther than that. Let's go back to February 15th. 16th.
It must suck to be that dumb.
Just Senator Kennedy doing his thing. Here's something. This is 8 seconds long, March 3rd last year.
We launched the Great American Comeback, and we really did. We launched it with a vigor and with a
vivor. Launched it with a vivor. You just make up words, misread things on the teleprompter. Just all right. Okay. And we just listened. Nobody said anything. Let's see. Let's find out what this is.
Are you going yourself to?
my people are, and I'll be staying here. I'll be in the Oval Office and various other places in the White House.
And on that matter, you're asking Congress to essentially.
So this is early on in the pandemic. We can tell that because everybody's standing behind, no masks, etc. The date on the video is the 21st of March last year.
Pass a series of legislation that's going to amount to about $2 trillion, 10% of the GDP. What do you say to members in both parties who say this is too expensive, this is just too much to debate and get done in 48 hours or so? And also, have you spoken directly with Speaker Pelosi at all about any of this?
Okay, so I've spoken with, I'm not going to say who I speak with, but I've spoken with directly or indirectly everybody many, many times.
It's not going to say who he's spoken with, but he's spoken directly or indirectly with everybody. Many, many times. So everybody? Because I don't remember that conversation, but it could have been an indirect conversation. I don't know.
We're doing very well. I think the Democrats and the Republicans are going to come up with a package that's going to be really something very special. It's going to help people. This is the first time there's ever been a case where you want people not to work. It's always, you want to create incentive to work. We're creating not an incentive not to work, but the fact is we're asking people not to work because of they have to stay away from each other. If we're going to kill this horrible hidden enemy, we have to stay away. So there's never been a thing like this in the history of the world.
That was like 2 months before he said we got to open up. We got to get everybody back to work, people. And he denied that he ever endorsed shutting things down. But this is obviously during 15 days to slow the spread.
And other nations are doing similar things, some effectively, some not effectively. They're doing similar things. We are creating a package that's going to keep companies together, keep workers paid so they can live and sustain. We'll see what the timing is. The biggest thing we can do is get rid of the problem. The problem is exactly what we know, the medical problem. We want to
COVID.
have this whole
They were calling it coronavirus back then, though.
incredible situation that it can start right away. Not that all these companies break up, all the workers are out of jobs, you can't put them back together, and it would take years to put them back together.
It didn't.
Because we had the greatest economy in the history of the world
We didn't.
until we got hit by this problem. And we can be back very, very quickly. And it's our intention to be back very, very quickly. So we're doing a package, the likes of which nobody's ever done before. I'm obviously the one that has to approve the different things and the recommendations of the different things. And
I don't know what the secondary audio is in there. I hear it too.
I like buybacks as an example, and stock buybacks. I didn't like it the first time, and this time we've never seen anything like it. Where I don't want money to be used for that. I want money to be used for workers and for opening businesses, keeping business.
The stock buybacks he just talked about, that was his tax plan. He gave a bunch of corporations a whole bunch of money, and they bought stock back, which is what everybody said. Like, that's what they're going to do. And he's like, oh, no, they would never do it. Nobody knew they were going to do that. We were saying that's what they were going to do.
This is not buybacks. And well, I am strongly recommending a buyback exclusion. You cannot buy back your stock. You can't take $1 billion of the money and just buy back your stock and increase the value. Please.
On the subject of
The Hill, are you going yourself to?
My people are.
So he's talked to everybody. Absolutely everybody. Many, many times. Still waiting on the presser here. It is now, we've been live for, 45 minutes. 45 minutes past the time that they were supposed to start this thing. We're just going back in time, taking a look at some Trumpisms throughout the years. Let's jump way back. Let's go into the old folder here. And we'll see. God, I have a lot of Trump video. It's TDS is what it is. Let's go back to older stuff. And let's go back here. This is from, what is this from? Oh no, that's a 10-minute speech. You guys don't want to watch that. Wait, these aren't really older. Let's find out what this is.
And the day after my address, our good Republicans in the United States Senate voted to reject the outrageous partisan impeachment hoax and to issue a full, complete, and absolute total acquittal.
There we go. An acquittal is just an acquittal. Not even sure when this is. So this might have been after the first impeachment. It was, where is this? I don't even know where this is. They don't say on the screen where they're broadcasting from.
And it wasn't even close. And I want to thank our Republican senators and our Republican House members. They were tremendous. In the House, we won 196 to nothing, and then we got 3 Democrats.
Oh, okay. So that was the first impeachment.
And in the Senate, other than
Yeah.
Romney, we had
Oh, it's New Jersey.
we got 52 to nothing. 52 to nothing.
52 to 48. The 48s actually count. Of all the people that voted for me, 100% of them voted for me. So we got 100% of the vote. Such a... Like, what person in their right mind supports that idiot? Seriously, Trump fans. How do you support a guy who says idiocy like that on a regular basis? That's from a while ago. That's from a couple of years ago. Let's see what this is.
And under your favorite president.
This is Bossier City, Louisiana.
It rose $5,000 in just 2.5 years.
Oh, he's talking about how much more money we have as a source of income. That families are, you know, they make, I think he finally settled on $10,000 a year more because of Trump. Oh, here we go.
I've just met with the Vice President, Secretary Blinken, Secretary Austin, National Security Advisor Sullivan, and other members of the National Security Leadership Team, the Situation Room, to discuss our ongoing efforts to evacuate American citizens, third country civilians, Afghan allies, and vulnerable Afghans. And I want to provide the American people with a brief update on the situation in Afghanistan. Since I spoke to you on Monday, we've made significant progress. We've secured the airport, enabling flights to resume, not just military flights, but civilian charters and from other countries, and the NGOs taking out civilians and vulnerable Afghanis. And now we have almost 6,000 troops on the ground, including the 82nd Airborne, providing runway security, the Army 10th Mountain Division standing guard around the airport, and the 24th Marine Expeditionary Unit assisting the civilian departure. This is one of the largest, most difficult airlifts in history, and the only country in the world capable of projecting this much power on the far side of the world with this degree of precision is the United States of America. We've already evacuated more than 18,000 people since July and approximately 13,000 since our military airlift began on August the 14th. Thousands more have been evacuated on private...
Sorry, that's Secretary Blinken on his left-hand side.
...charter flights facilitated
Secretary of State.
...by the U.S. government. These numbers include American citizens and permanent residents, as well as their families. It includes SIV applicants and their families, those Afghans who have worked alongside us, served alongside of us, gone into combat with us, and provided invaluable assistance to us, such as translators and interpreters. The United States stands by its commitment that we've made to these people, and it includes other vulnerable Afghans, such as women leaders and journalists. In fact, working in close coordination with the management of the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the Wall Street Journal, we have successfully evacuated all 204 of their employees in Afghanistan on U.S. military aircraft earlier this week. We've established the flow of flights, and we've increased the number of people we're moving out of the country. We paused flights in Kabul a few hours this morning to make sure we could process the arriving evacuees at the transit points. But our commander in Kabul has already given the order for outbound flights to resume. Even with the pause, we've moved out 5,700 evacuees yesterday, and we're working on a variety to verify that number of the Americans are still in country as we work on this, because don't have the exact number of people who are Americans who are there, and those who may have come home to the United States. We want to get a strong number as to exactly how many people are there, how many American citizens, and where they are. Just yesterday, among the many Americans we evacuated, there were 169 Americans who we got over the wall into the airport using military assets. We're also facilitating flights for our allies and our partners, and working in close operational coordination with NATO on this evacuation. For example, we provided overwatch for the French convoy bringing hundreds of their people from the French embassy to the airport. These operations are going to continue over the coming days before we complete our drawdown. We're going to do everything that we can to provide safe evacuation for our Afghan allies, partners, and Afghans who might be targeted because of their association with the United States. But let me be clear. Any American who wants to come home, we will get you home. But make no mistake, this evacuation mission is dangerous. It involves risks to our armed forces, and it's being conducted under difficult circumstances. I cannot promise.
That's what everyone has been screaming for on the right wing. He's got to say that Americans are going to come home and we're not going to leave any man behind. Okay, he just said that. It'll be ignored. Why haven't we heard from Biden, they're saying, as he's talking?
What the final outcome will be, or what it will be, that it will be without risk of loss. But as Commander-in-Chief, I can assure you that I will mobilize every resource necessary. And as an American, I offer my gratitude to the brave men and women of the U.S. Armed Forces who are carrying out this mission. They're incredible. And as we continue to work the logistics of evacuation, we're in constant contact with the Taliban, working to ensure civilians have safe passage to the airport. We are particularly focused on our engagements on making sure every American who wants to leave can get to the airport. Where we have been seeing challenges with Americans, for Americans, we have thus far been able to resolve them. We've made clear to the Taliban that any attack on our forces or disruption of our operations at the airport will be met with swift and forceful response. We're also keeping a close watch on any potential terrorist threat at or around the airport, including from the ISIS affiliates in Afghanistan who were released from prison when the prisons were emptied. And because they are, by the way, and make everybody understand that the ISIS in Afghanistan have been the sworn enemy of the Taliban. I've said all along, we're going to retain a laser focus on our counterterrorism mission, working in close coordination with our allies and our partners, and all those who have an interest in ensuring stability in the region. Secretary Blinken is with me today, met this morning with our NATO allies in consultation about the way forward, so that Afghanistan cannot be used in the future as a terrorist base to attack the United States or our allies. For 20 years, Afghanistan has been a joint effort with our NATO allies. We went in together, and we're leaving together. And now we're working together to bring our people and our Afghan partners to safety. In the past few days, I've also spoken directly with the British Prime Minister, Mr. Johnson, Chancellor Merkel of Germany, and President Macron of France. We all agreed that we should convene, and we will convene, the G7 meeting next week, a group of the world's leading democracies, so that together we can coordinate our mutual approach, our united approach on Afghanistan and moving forward. we are united with our closest partners to execute the mission at hand. We've also discussed the need to work with the international community to provide humanitarian assistance such as food aid and medical care for refugees who have crossed into neighboring countries to escape the Taliban, and to bring international pressure on the Taliban with respect to the treatment of Afghan people overall, but including Afghan, particularly women and girls. The past week has been heartbreaking. We've seen gut-wrenching images of panicked people acting out of sheer desperation. You know, it's completely understandable. They're frightened, they're sad, uncertain what happens next. I don't think any one of us can see these pictures and not feel that pain on a human level. Now we have a mission to complete in Afghanistan. It's an incredibly difficult and
He's wrong there. Trump can look at these pictures and not feel any pain. There's sociopaths out there.
dangerous operation for our military. We have almost 6,000 of America's finest fighting men and women at the Kabul airport. And we're putting their lives on the line, and they're doing it in a dangerous place to save other Americans, our Afghan allies, and citizens of our allies who went in with us. You know, I talk to our commanders on the ground there every single day, as I just did an hour or so ago. And I made it clear to them that we'll get them whatever they need to do the job. They're performing to the highest standard under extraordinarily difficult and dynamic circumstances. Our NATO allies are strongly standing with us, their troops keeping sentry alongside ours in Kabul, as is the case whenever I deploy our troops into harm's way. I take that responsibility seriously. I carry that burden every day, just as I did when I was vice president and my son was deployed to Iraq for a year. There'll be plenty of time to criticize and second guess when this operation is over. But now, I'm focused on getting this job done. I would ask every American to join me in praying for the women and men risking their lives in the service of our nation. As events evolve over the coming days, my team and I will continue to share the information and update the American people on exactly where things are. We'll use every resource necessary to carry out the mission at hand and bring to safety American citizens and our Afghan allies. This is our focus now. And when this is finished, we will complete our military withdrawal and finally bring to an end 20 years of American military action in Afghanistan. Thank you. May God bless you, our troops, and our diplomats, and all those serving in harm's way. And now I'll take questions. AP, Zeke Miller.
Thank you, Mr. President. You vowed that you were ushering an era where the people can count on America to live up to these promises. You promised to lead Afghanistan, but you also promised not to help to bring out those who helped America in its war effort. We've seen these heart-wrenching images at the Kabul airport of people trying to get there, say nothing of the people who can't get to that airport. You made the commitment to get American troops out, to get American citizens out. Will you make the same commitment to those who assisted in the American war effort over the last 20 years, number one? And then number two, what is your message to America's partners around the world who have criticized not the withdrawal, but the conduct of that withdrawal and made them question America's credibility on the world stage?
I have seen no question of our credibility from our allies around the world. I've spoken with our NATO allies. We've spoken with NATO allies, the Secretary of State. Our National Security Advisor has been in contact with his counterparts throughout the world and our allies, as has the General, I keep calling him a General, but my Secretary of Defense. The fact of the matter is, I have not seen that. As a matter of fact, the exact opposite I've gotten. The exact opposite thing is we're acting with dispatch.
And you'll use that tonight. But that's fine. He was a general. Biden has known him as a general for years. Now he's the Secretary of Defense, which is a higher title, so he should be referred to as the Secretary. But Biden has known him for 30 years or whatever as a general. Could be 10, could be 20, whatever it is, and calls him the general. So yes, he is a general. also now Secretary of Defense.
We're acting, committing to what we said we would do. Look,
That's not Biden forgetting something or making a mistake or not remembering the guy's name. That's, oh, I'm supposed to address you now, even though I've addressed you as the last 20 years. It's like calling your mom by her first name. It takes some getting used to.
let's put this thing in perspective here. What interest do we have in Afghanistan at this point with al-Qaeda gone? We went to Afghanistan for the express purpose of getting rid of al-Qaeda in Afghanistan, as well as getting Osama bin Laden. And we did. Imagine, just imagine, if that attack, if bin Laden had decided with al-Qaeda to launch an attack from Yemen, would we ever gone to Afghanistan? Would there ever be any reason we'd be in Afghanistan? Controlled by the Taliban? What is the national interest of the United States in that circumstance? We went and did the mission. You've known my position for a long, long time. It's time to end this war. The estimates of the cost of this war over the last 20 years range from a minimum of $1 trillion to a think tank at one of the universities saying $2 trillion. That's somewhere between $150 million a day and $300 million a day. The threat from terrorism has metastasized. There's a greater danger from ISIS and al-Qaeda and all these affiliates in other countries by far than there is from Afghanistan. And we're going to retain an over-the-horizon capability that if they were to come back to be able to take them out, surgically move. So this is where we should be. This is about America leading the world, and all our allies have agreed with that. And by the way, before I made this decision, I was at the G7 as well as met with our NATO partners. And I told them all, every one of them knew and agreed with the decision I made to jointly end our involvement in Afghanistan. The first part of your question was, I can't remember now.
Would you commit to the same commitment? Would you make the same commitment to bring out Afghans who assisted in the war effort?
Yes, we're making the same commitment. There's no one more important than bringing American citizens out. I acknowledge that. But
the right wing is going to seize on that as well. He can't even remember the beginning part of a question. Trump did that all the time.
they're equally important almost as all those SIVs, we call them, who in fact helped us. They were translators. They went into battle with us. They were part of the operation. As well as we're also trying to get out as many NGOs, non-government organizations, women's organizations, et cetera. We're doing all we can. In the meantime, Secretary Blinken and I am going to be working with our allies to see to it that we can bring international pressure on the Taliban they're looking to gain some legitimacy. They're going to have to figure out how they're going to maintain that country. And there's going to be harsh conditions, strong conditions we're going to apply, and it will depend on whether they get help based on whether or not how and well they treat women and girls, how they treat their citizens. So this is just beginning on that score.
Stay past the 31st to make that happen, to bring all the Americans out, to bring those SIVs out?
I think we can get it done by then, but we're going to make that judgment as we go. Now, Justin Sink of Bloomberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. You just said that you would keep a laser focus on counterterrorism efforts and that you don't see as great of a threat of terrorism from Afghanistan as other parts of the world. But if you and your administration so badly misassessed how quickly the Taliban would sweep through Afghanistan, and we no longer have an embassy there from which to run intelligence operations, how can you at all be confident of your assessment of the risk of terrorism and the ability of the U.S. to conduct over-the-horizon missions to keep it in check? Can you tell Americans that they're safe and will remain safe from terror attacks in Afghanistan?
I think you're comparing apples and oranges. One question was whether or not the Afghan forces we trained up would stay and fight in their own civil war they had going on. No one, I shouldn't say no one, the consensus was that it was highly unlikely that in 11 days they'd collapse and fall and the leader of Afghanistan would flee the country. That's a very different question than whether or not there is the ability to observe whether or not large groups of terrorists begin to accumulate in a particular area in Afghanistan to plot against the United States of America. That's why we retained an over-the-horizon capability to go in and do something about that if that occurs. But in the meantime, we know what's happened around the world. We know what's happening in terms of what's going on in other countries where there is a significant rise of terrorist organizations in the Middle East, in East Africa, and other places. And so the bottom line is we're dealing with those terrorist threats from other parts of the world and failed states without permanent military presence there. We have to do the same in Afghanistan.
Sir, just on that initial assessment, we learned over the last 24 hours that there was a dissent cable from the State Department.
Sure.
Saying that the Taliban would come faster through Afghanistan. Can you say why, after that cable was issued, the U.S. didn't do more to get Americans out?
All kinds of cables, all kinds of advice. If you notice, it ranged from this group saying that they didn't say it'd fall when it did fall, but saying that it would fall, to others saying it wouldn't happen for a long time and they'd be able to sustain themselves through the end of the year. I made the decision. The buck stops with me. I took the consensus opinion. The consensus opinion was that, in fact, it would not occur if it occurred until later.
By the way, I'm kind of monitoring Twitter at the same time. The right wing has already seized on what was the first part of your question? I can't remember now. It's already making the rounds.
In the year. So it was my decision. Now my next is Stephanie Ramos, ABC.
There he is, taking responsibility for it. The buck stops with me. This is my decision. And the right wing will say, why is he blaming everybody else? No, he's just going to state the facts. The Taliban government fled. The Afghan government fled. The Afghan army completely folded.
Thank you, Mr. President. 2 questions for you. The military has secured the airport, as you mentioned, but will you sign off on sending U.S. troops into Kabul to evacuate Americans who haven't been able to get to the airport safely?
We have no indication that they haven't been able to get in Kabul through the airport. We've made an agreement with the Taliban thus far. They've allowed them to go through. It's in their interest for them to go through. So we know of no circumstance where American citizens are carrying an American passport are trying to get through to the airport. But we will do whatever needs to be done to see to it they get to the airport.
And one more, Mr. President. Last month, my colleague Martha Raddatz interviewed Abdul, an interpreter who was on the front lines with U.S. forces in Afghanistan. Overnight, we received a photo of Taliban militants coming to the door of his home, literally hunting him down. Thankfully, he was able to escape, but he is obviously still in mortal danger. What would be your message to Abdul, his wife, and his 3 young daughters?
We want you to be able to get to the airport. Contact us. We'll see whatever we can do to get you there. We've got to get you out. We are committed to deal with you, your wife, and your child.
See, that's the ridiculous part, is how? How does anybody contact anybody? That's the holdup. We want you to get out. Right, so how am I going to get out? If I go to the airport, I will be killed along the way. That's the problem. Contact us. Yeah, call 1-800-AMERICA.
Get all 3 of you out of Afghanistan. That's the commitment.
Thank you, sir.
If you'd like to be evacuated, press 1. If you'd like to stay in Afghanistan, good luck.
Meredith Lee of PBS NewsHour.
You mentioned just now using every resource available for evacuation.
Americans were warned to get out. They weren't told, they weren't saying, we recommend getting out of this country. Because, again, the Afghan army had incredible spirit, and they were going to hold the line. And it's true, nobody anticipated, I'm sure some people anticipated. I said it was going to collapse, but nobody listens to me. Well, okay, 44,000 hours, but I'm nobody. I'm not anybody important. And if you guys remember, a couple of weeks ago, I was saying this is all going to fall apart. But I didn't say in the span of 5 hours. I did not say that.
evacuations. Why haven't you ordered the military to expand the security perimeter around the Kabul airport? Do you have any plans to do so, given that will likely require more U.S. troops? And are you considering rescue operations?
It doesn't really do anything. You send out the military without a protective wall of any kind, and that just pushes everybody else back. It's not, and you're just creating conflict and escalating things. It doesn't make any sense to expand from the airport. You can start a war that way, and Americans will die. And suddenly the Americans in Afghanistan become hostages. You don't want that.
Operations to recover Americans and Afghan allies stuck behind Taliban checkpoints?
The answer is yes to the last question. We're considering every opportunity and every means by which we could get folks to the airport. That's number one. Number two, the reason why we have not gone out and started and set up a perimeter way outside the airport in Kabul is that it's likely to draw an awful lot of unintended consequences in terms of people who, in fact, are not part of the Taliban. We've been in constant contact with the Taliban leadership on the ground in Kabul, as well as the Taliban leadership at Dahou. And we've been coordinating what we were doing. That's why we were able, for example, how we got all of our embassy personnel out, how we got everyone out of the embassy safely. That was the distance. That's how we helped get the French out and out of their embassy. So the question remains, there will be judgments made on the ground by the military commanders at the moment, and I cannot second guess each of those judgments to be made. But the idea of, again, let me get back to the fundamental point I made at the outset. When the decision was made by me that, and it was made some time ago, and I ran 4 presidents saying I wanted to get us out of Afghanistan. One of the things that is a reality is people now say to me and to others, and many of you say it on air, that why did we have to move because no Americans are being attacked? Why did we withdraw those, why did we agree to withdraw 2,500 troops? No Americans are being attacked. As I said before, the reason they weren't being attacked was part of an agreement that Trump had made a year earlier. We will leave by May 1st, he said, as long as there's no attack on Americans in that year period. Number one. Number two, the Taliban was taking large swaths of the countryside, north and south. None of the major areas, none of the major points of the capitals of each of these provinces. But they were all over the country. And the idea that if I had said on May the 2nd or 3rd, we are not leaving, we are staying, does anybody truly believe that I would not have had to put in significantly more American forces, send your sons, your daughters, like my son was sent to Iraq, to maybe die? And for what? For what? So the only rational thing to do, in my view, was to set up and pre-position American forces for the purpose of evacuation, and the aircraft to pre-position those ahead of time so that we would be able to begin the process of evacuation of American citizens, SIVs, and others who helped us. The last point I'll make is this. Look, if we had decided 15 years ago to leave Afghanistan, it would have been really difficult. If we decided 5 years ago, if we continued the war for another decade and tried to leave, there's no way in which you'd be able to leave Afghanistan without there being some of what you're seeing now. But what we've done so far is we've been able to get a large number of Americans out, all our personnel at the embassy out, and so on. And thank God, so far, knock on wood, we're in a different position. Scott Detro. Scott, NPR.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to follow up on something you said a moment ago. You said that there's no circumstances where American citizens cannot get to the airport. That doesn't really square with the images we're seeing around the airport, with the reporting on the ground from our colleagues who are describing chaos and violence. Are you saying unequivocally that any American who wants to get to the airport is getting there and getting past the security barrier and to the planes where they want to go?
I thought the question was, how can they get through to the airport outside the airport? And the answer is, to the best of our knowledge, the Taliban checkpoints, they are letting through people showing American passports. Now, that's a different question when they get into the rush and crowd of all the folks just outside the wall near the airport. That's why we had to...
That is correct, and that's an important distinction, and I have not heard of any American citizen who hasn't been able to get to the perimeter of the airport. And then once you get there, there's thousands of people, and you've got to make your way through the mob. So there is a distinction there.
Yes, was it yesterday or the day before? We went over the wall and brought in, how many? 169 Americans. So it is a process to try to figure out how we deal with the mad rush of non-Americans, those who didn't help, those who were not on the priority list, just any Afghan to be able to get out of the country. And so my guess is that no matter what, under what circumstances there's not a whole lot of Afghanis, there's a whole lot of Afghanis that just as soon come to America, whether they're any involvement with the United States in the past at all, rather than stay under Taliban rule or any rule. So what I was saying is that we have an agreement that they will let pass through the checkpoints that the Taliban control, and let Americans through.
But given this, given the negotiations with the Taliban, the scenes that we're seeing, can you just fully explain why the plan wasn't to go ahead with these evacuations of both Americans and allies before the drawdowns began, before Bagram was closed, looking back several months? Because whether it was now or several months from now, there seems to be a broad consensus that the Taliban would make these gains, and these would be needed at some point.
Well, yeah, at some point. But the point was that although we were in contact with the Taliban and Doha for this whole period of time, that some point wasn't expected to be the total demise of the Afghan National Force, which was 300 persons. Let's assume the Afghan National Force had continued to fight and they were surrounding Kabul. Be a very different story. Very different story. But the overwhelming consensus was that they were not going to collapse. The Afghan forces, they were not going to leave. They were not going to just abandon and then put down.
That's true. In fact, I saw President Trump talking about how much esprit de corps they had, how much spirit the Afghan army had, and how great they were as fighters, incredible fighters.
Down their arms and take off. So that's what happened. Thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Why do you continue to trust the Taliban, Mr. President? Why do you continue to trust their pledges, Mr. President?
One more question, Mr. President, please.
Okay, why do you continue to trust the Taliban, Mr. President? I don't know if Trump is in the room as well, because that would be... why continue to trust the Taliban? At this point, you don't say negative things about the Taliban, because right now, they're letting Americans through. This whole situation has disintegrated beyond what anybody thought would happen, because the Afghan army just disappeared. Just cut tail and ran. What are you going to do at this point? Well, the priority is getting Americans out of there safely. And so you don't run around insulting the Taliban. You work with the Taliban to get your people out of the country. Is that trusting? No. That's not trusting them. There's no trust with the Taliban. There never has been any trust. That's why we're getting out of there in the first place. There was trust in the Taliban because Trump had a fantastic relationship with the mullah. Let's go back. I believe I have that. Again, This is President Trump. Here he is.
Good job, and I think people.
No, here, this one.
The relationship is very good that I have with the mullah, and we had a good long conversation today.
The mullah is Baradar. That's the leader of the Taliban, the co-founder of the Taliban that Trump had released from jail in 2018 from Pakistan. That Pakistan released from jail after the U.S. had put him in jail back in 2010, 2011. It's about 10 years ago. Trump asked for him to be released from jail and then negotiated a peace deal with him. Why? Well, he's got a fantastic relationship with him.
The relationship is very good that I have with the mullah, and we had a good long conversation today. And
a good long conversation with the leader of the Taliban. And I said, I will release 5,000 prisoners for you. And, oh, by the way, this didn't involve the Afghan government. The actual democratically elected Afghan government that the U.S. endorsed, going in, establishing democracy, creating a nation. Yay, freedom, right? Nope. No negotiations, but a very good relationship with the mullah.
They want to cease the violence. They'd like to cease violence also.
The Afghan government seems reluctant to turn over those 5,000 prisoners.
Well, they may be reluctant, They've been the relation.
The Afghan government seems reluctant to release those 5,000 prisoners. The ones from the Taliban who were killing all the Americans and the Afghans. Well, they may be. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Going to cross my arms in an inefficient manner. That's where this started. Okay, kids. You can all form your own comments on that. Questions before I go? Yeah, the guy was initially released. Baradar was released so that Trump could do peace negotiations with the Taliban. Because he was all about peace deals. Oh, Nobel Peace Prize. Remember how many times he bragged about being nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize? Obama had a peace prize, and come hell or high water, Trump was going to get himself that peace prize. All of this is because of Trump's ego. That's what we did. Any other questions before we wrap it up? That's a lot of broadcasting for one day. And then we'll do the movie tonight, too. We're going to do movie night. I've already posted the link in the Twitter chat room. Anybody else wants to join us, shoot me a message on the Twitters, @KevinLeeFather. Leave a message in the YouTube below. I don't know if I'm ever going to see it. But yeah, we'll do movie night tonight. I'm very anti-blue cheese. And we'll see what happens. Brie is an exception to the rule because, again, there's exceptions to every rule. There aren't, but... I was going to say we'll do the birthday card. I've been teasing opening my birthday card for a week now. We're not going to do it because my back hurts. I've been sitting for so long. I got to get moving, guys. Got to get my days going. What the movie is, we don't know yet. It's going to be a mystery. We're having a mystery movie tonight. But watch yourself some Ted Lasso. Maybe I'll just skip movie night and just watch Ted Lasso because a new episode's coming out tonight. Okay, guys. Be good to yourself. Be good to everybody else. And most importantly, I'm going to go see Pembroke. So be good to me.